This woman tried to get out of an unhealthy relationship, planning to go on with the rest of her life, but that's not what happened. So on January 22nd, 2017, Matthew Bolen dropped his kids off at his sister's house, and then he went to his wife's home. Heaven Bolen wasn't home at the time, so Matthew hid in her house and waited for her to come home. Once she came home, he handcuffed her with her hands in front of her body. Matthew was upset at what he saw as Heaven's infidelities because she had been seeing other people, and Matthew had a real issue with that. Friends that were interviewed by police told police that Matthew was obsessed with finding out what Heaven was up to. Even when they suggested to him to go on with his life, he just absolutely refused. So police believed that Matthew planned to torture Heaven, but it didn't get that far because Heaven escaped. And when Heaven escaped, Matthew chased after her and shot her in the back of the head. Police actually found out about the shooting because Matthew had told his sister what he had done and that he was going to go unalive himself. And then the sister called another brother that they have, and that brother went to the home to check on Heaven. And when he did, he found Heaven lying in the middle of the road in front of her home. So when police responded, they found Heaven, who still had her handcuffs on, in front of her, lying face down in the road in front of her home, suffering a gunshot wound to the back of her head. Heaven was transported to the hospital in Harrison and then transferred to Springfield Hospital, where she died the next day. It seems like after the shooting, Matthew just went and told a bunch of people what he had done. He did tell them that he was sorry, but he also said that he couldn't go back to jail, that he didn't want his kids to resent him for what he had done, which is just ridiculous. I mean, yeah, they're going to resent you, but isn't the time to worry about that like before you actually shoot their mother rather than after? That's just my opinion. So the day before the shooting, on January 21st, Matthew had gone to a friend's house and borrowed a pistol. They had planned to go hunt coyotes the next day, but that's the weapon that Matthew used to shoot his wife. After the shooting, when Matthew came and told him what he had done, the friend tried to follow Matthew to see where he was going, but Matthew was able to lose him. Matthew made the rounds. He told his sister, his father, and two friends separately what he had done. There was a 4-day manhunt in Boone County trying to find Matthew Bolen, and he was eventually apprehended. I said earlier that police believed that Matthew had intended to torture Heaven, and there are two reasons for that. First of all, Matthew did tell a friend that he asked Heaven before he shot her about what she had been doing, and Heaven did confess to him, according to Matthew. The second reason is because Matthew had what they identified as a torture kit in his vehicle. He had a ball-peen hammer, wire pliers, tin snips, a knife, a rope, and duct tape, which may seem like ordinary objects to have, except for when you murder your wife. So Matthew Bolen was charged with capital murder, kidnapping, and felony with a firearm, and the state was seeking the death penalty. Pretty quickly, so in August 2017, Matthew Bolen pled guilty to first-degree murder and kidnapping. Matthew Bolen was sentenced to 40 years in prison on the first-degree murder, 20 years on the kidnapping, and 15 on the felony with a firearm. Those sentences are to run consecutively for a total of 75 years in prison. As of right now, it looks like Matthew Bolen will be eligible for parole in 2069.